What's good, folks? Family, friends, loved ones, enemies, frenemies, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, people of Middle Earth to another episode of Disguise Coverage, the only podcast in existence that gives you an equal amount of blueberries in each muffin and that is presented by the best pizza in Buffalo, New York, and that is One Pie Pizza. Find the online menu in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app and or platform you listen to this show on. I am your host, Anthony Prohaska. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. In this episode of Disguise Coverage, I am joined by one of my favorite guests, recurring guests as well, to ever grace the stage with me here on Disguise Coverage. And we're going to dive into the X's and O's, the scheme, the structure of the Buffalo Bills versus the New England Patriots coming up here in Week 17, a game that is very pivotal for the Buffalo Bills in terms of potentially pushing still for the AFC East title, but also with the opportunity to clinch a playoff spot this week, but also just in general because everyone hates the Patriots, and the Patriots beat the Bills earlier in the year, and it's still a real sore spot and a bad loss on the docket. And we're going to dive into, again, all the bones and the structure and schematics of that piece in this game. I hope you folks had a good holiday, whatever holiday you celebrate, whatever you do, if you travel, if you stay home, whatever you eat, whatever you do, whatever you drink. I hope everybody had a very fun Christmas time, a very good holiday. And I guess I was going to say a couple more things, but I'm just too excited. So without further ado, let's bring up my guest at this time. Again, recurring guest on the show, Mr. Taylor Kyles of the Beat now for Patriots on CLNS. Taylor, you are, like I said, one of my favorite people. You're extremely knowledgeable. I texted you earlier this week, just, giving you some praise for how good you're doing over there, being a beat guy now, into how you've started to ascend, but being one of the few beat people out there that knows ball, again, that's why you're here. Like scheme, structure, you break down tape, you watch the all 22. I love how you ask questions to the players, and when they give you answers, you then go into the tape to those specific plays that you asked questions about and then tie it together. Like you'll ask somebody a question and then post it on Twitter and then go to that play they were talking about and you'll post that play and quote tweet your original question and answer from the player. Like it's just, you give tremendous insight into the Patriots, obviously, but football in general. So I appreciate the hell idea. I love the work that you do. I also think you're pretty decent as a person. So thank you for taking the time and welcome to the show.
Thank you, buddy. I always appreciate coming on, seeing what background you have. I love the festiveness. Happy holidays, everybody. Best to you and yours. But yeah, man, I mean, football, listen, it's not an easy sport to follow or really to understand the nitty gritty of. People ask me, how do I learn more about football? And I'm saying, if you want my experience, it's just watch until your eyes bleed, because that's really all it is. It's just recognition at some point and just picking up on stuff. And, as often as I can just kind of lend that to the people and, make it a little easier, because people just don't have time. That's also, I was lucky enough to fall in love with the sport in middle school, high school, college. And not advisable, but football was the main thing. School, that was nice, but football was priority. So yeah, man, I mean, thank you, I appreciate that. But football is a great sport. Just trying to spread the love as much as I can, and happy to be on. Wait, real quick, how furious would Bills fans be if not only did the Patriots beat them again and possibly knock them out of the playoffs, if they lost to two different Patriots quarterbacks who most people consider to be backup caliber players in one season? What would happen?
Oh, it would be absolutely terrible. Like it was already it was already bad enough, like losing in Week 7 to the Patriots team that dude, we talked about it like on the show when you came on that week. Like that Patriots offense, still this Patriots offense, even though it's changed a bit, was like arguably the worst in the NFL. And they put up 29 points on the Bills, and just like, oh, we're down by 3 with like a couple of minutes left. That's cool. We'll just run it right, take it right down the field and score and beat you. Like it was a demoralizing loss to a team that has been the nemesis of the Bills for the majority of the past, I don't know, like 20 years, something like that. Actually, yeah, literally like 21, 22 years. Then on top of that, of course, Week 7 was Belichick's like 300th win. So knowing all of that happened in Week 7, then to lose any game right now down the stretch for the Bills would be catastrophic for the fans, because each game is so important towards the playoff push. The division hopes are hanging by a thread, but then the playoff push in general. But to know that like they lost would be a problem enough. But then to know that they lost to the Pats would hurt even more. To know that they lost to Bailey Zappi and the Pats, knowing that they also lost to Mac Jones and the Pats, just especially with like where the Pats are. Like, it's not even like, oh, well, you lost to Bailey Zappi and the Pats, but like that defense is humming. Like, it's Judon and it's from last year, and Duggar's sick, and Christian Gonzalez is still healthy and he's ascended, and all of these things. Like, no, like the Pats defense is still very good in many aspects, and we're going to talk about it. But it would be, any loss would be bad. Losing to the Pats would be worse. Losing to this Pats team, dude, it just brutal. Like, it would be I don't even know if I can put into words like how bad it would be for people, even for myself. Like, objectivity like reigns supreme with me. Going back and looking at stuff from like week 7, I'm frustrated right now. One, is like a fan, but two, just as like a watcher of football schematically, I'm just so furious. Like, I just still don't know how week 7 happened. So if they lost again, jettison all 22 into the sun. I'm moving to like a remote island in like Papua New Guinea where they've never heard of football, and I'm out.
Well, I mean, to be fair, this time around, I think Bills fans and Patriots fans are going to be rooting for a loss, because Patriots fans are trying to get back into the top 3,
Yes.
top 4. So at least we're on the same team this time. I will be on the fence, because I loved seeing how happy those guys were after last week's game, because they really do work their asses off, and they deserved to get a win. But, at the same time, if they lose, I'm not going to be broken up about it, because I would love to get a guy like Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, whoever it is in that AFC East to compete with some of these guys.
Of course, it would be like the year that like the Pats have a shot at like a top pick. There's all these like really good QB prospects for people, and just like loaded dudes up top. Like, oh yeah, little shrug, Patriots. Actually, I do want to ask you about that though. Like, what is this season been like for you? So you started as a Patriots fan, but now you cover them from like a ball knowing perspective. What's this season been like? This is very much like uncharted territory for the Patriots, but also like for you in both your fandom and covering the team. Like, they've never been a team that's like, oh, like, I guess in the Belichick era, like once Brady and everything happened, like they've never been a team that's been like, oh, top 5 pick, even really like top 10, like let alone what this season has been, who they are, what they are. Belichick is here. Rumors of him like going. They don't have an answer at quarterback. Like, dudes are getting hurt. They lack firepower in certain areas. Like, what is everything? Like, is there one thing that sticks out in your mind, or you just have like a general blanket thought or statement when it comes to what this season has been for the Pats? Because also, just from my perspective, like, I didn't believe in Mac Jones and a bunch of the offense, but I thought between how good their defense was and is, granted injuries, but how good their defense was and is, plus Bill O'Brien coming back, I thought this team would be fine enough to hover around 500, if not a couple like wins better than that the majority of the year. So to see where they are, I'm surprised, but I'm also like not a fan, and I want to watch them burn. So just what is it all like for you, knowing this team, watching them on tape every week, and then also having the fan piece involved? Like, because it's just been a very unprecedented season, like with how bad it's been.
That's what it's been. It's unprecedented, man. It's kind of been a growing experience every week. The middle of the season kind of hit that lull where they were losing consistently, and you're like, all right, we know what to expect. And then they came out of the bye week, like things were bad, but it was like, all right, what is going on? Like, the defense is not allowing touchdowns, or like not allowing teams to score 10 points, and the offense is somehow finding ways to lose.
That was nuts. I think it's like they're the only team
like in history. Frustrating. Like, there's been points where I've been like disappointed this season and like not happy. That was like, this is actually morally unjust. Like, this is messed up that the defense is doing all this, putting their bodies on the line, balling out, and you are actively like, I mean, Mac was doing it before, but it was just like, there's been 2 chunks of the season, the blowouts to Dallas and the Saints, and then that 3-week stretch where it was like, I think it was the Colts, the Chargers, and the Giants, where it was just like they can't score.
The Chargers 6-0 game was just like, dude, yeah, your face.
I was rooting for a loss and was still like, this is pathetic, and I'm like, this, like, it's hard to watch. So like, that's what it is, man. Like, it's been a roller coaster. There was the middle, and then there was like the, oh, they're like, they're pretty solid. Then, oh God, it's really bad. And then, all right, they're bad. We get it. And then, oh my God, the defense is doing well. What are we doing? And then it's coming back up, and you're starting to see, oh, there's something here against all odds. Like, they're not playing great teams now, and no one's going to pretend they are. Like, even the Chiefs, for having Patrick Mahomes, having Spags, and all the good things that defense is doing, like, it still wasn't the Chiefs that and that you fear. And And to be fair, like again, the defense made it a fight. Like it's incredible. I think almost every point the defense has allowed, not all, but the vast majority of the points they've allowed have been on offensive turnovers or something where the offense started in their own in opposing territory. So like they're starting with their backs against the wall constantly. The first possession they had last week, they were backed up against the red zone and ended up actually getting a stop. So if you talk about like why it's happening, it's one. I've been talking for a while already, but Bill O'Brien.
Also,
Bill O'Brien
everybody too. One, you do a good job, so I'm down, and the people are down to listen to you. Two, you're talking about all of the pain points for the Patriots, which I'm sure every Bills fan listening to this is like, yes,
you're loving this.
You're loving this.
It's all for the content, man. Just take my pain and use it to fuel your enjoyment. But yeah, man. I mean, so I said Bill O'Brien. The two Bills are just really annoying to have to talk about when you're like flowing stream of consciousness. Right. Bill Belichick has built what it was basically an inept offense. Like injuries played a massive part. Like they have lost or had significant injuries to all of their best players except for David Andrews. Knock on wood. Like Trent Brown's super banged up. He's been rotating with backups like for weeks now because he got rolled up on against the Dolphins. Mike Inwenu and Cole Strange started late, were banged up, finally found a rhythm. Cole Strange has an ACL. I'm sorry, I don't know if it was an ACL, it was a knee injury. Then he already had one, so he's out for the season. Ramondre Stevenson got rolled up on, hurt his ankle. We're probably not going to see any more of him. Kendrick Bourne, their best receiver, went out against the Dolphins. Like it's just been I'm sorry, Trent Brown got hurt against the Bills. So like literally since the last time you played the Patriots, Trent Brown has not been healthy. And it's shown in his play, and he was their best offensive player for most of the season or the beginning of the season. So offense has been ravaged by injury, but they didn't have the talent or depth to really be competitive to overcome that when they were facing more stiff competition. And the defense has been doing its best. They tried to replace Christian Gonzalez with J.C. Jackson. That didn't work out. He was giving up like an explosive play or two every week, whether it was a bust or just a blown assignment. He now is done for the season due to mental health issues. We, obviously wish him the best. That's much bigger than the game. But yeah, I mean, it's been tough, but they've really gotten it together. Their pass rush has gotten better. Christian Barmore is playing like an all-pro Pro Bowl level since like week 6. He's really been balling. Devon Gottschalk been like the best nose tackle in football. Anthony Jennings emerging as an elite run defender. Jabril Peppers became a starter, and he's been one of the best safeties in the league. I really think he's been playing at a Pro Bowl caliber level. Didn't play last week, but like really, it's been Jelani Tavai, another breakout guy at linebacker, and Jabril Peppers. Every week, one of or both of those guys is involved in a turnover. Like, I'm not exaggerating. Yeah, I'm serious. It is wild to watch. Like, every week, it's a joke, but it's consistently one or the other who's, somewhere in the ballpark. So the defense has been doing its best. They've really, stood up in the face of adversity, especially the run defense has been the best in the NFL. And the offense, to its credit, with Zappe, I think because he isn't as beaten and battered as Mac Jones and has more confidence, that's kind of shown, and he's been attacking downfield. He's been looking better in the pocket than Mac did. Short accuracy is super inconsistent. Decision-making is all over the place a little bit because he's too fast sometimes and he's too slow. Turnover-worthy play, at least one a game. But you're seeing week by week he is getting better, which is, pretty exciting because last week I really thought he played flat-out good football for most of the games. So, yeah, it's been a wild season, but I do think that this will be a more competitive game than a lot of Bills fans probably expect.
Bailey Zappe definitely adds some juice and electricity to the offense. Get it? Because electric.
Oh, God, I almost went right over my head. And I hear these puns every day. That's bad. I got to be on point. Waking up.
Get better. We got a question for you from the chat. Carl's pretty much here every week. Carl, appreciate the hell out of you for being here again. Thank you very much for the super chat. And also the question here for Taylor. And Taylor, this is something I've seen. What was I doing? I was on Talking Football with Bobby Skinner, the work they do for John Boy Media. And he was talking about like the Belichick to Chargers rumors. And I've seen it reported on social media in different spots. I've talked about it with people in real life. Do you see, and so the question directly from Carl, Taylor, do you see Bill Belichick going to the Chargers? I guess also this specific piece, and then add a little extra if you do have anything. Like, do you think, like, is this his last season? Is there something that swings the pendulum one way or another? I guess let's add a little, what do you see in the future for Bill Belichick?
Yeah, so I actually just wrote about this on CLNS Media. I think that Belichick, the coach, has absolutely earned another season. I think that There have been iffy decisions, like some of the game management stuff hasn't been on point.
Yeah.
Although, like, frankly, my brain hasn't registered it as much because I kind of am rooting for them to lose. And
Because you're broken and dead inside.
it's team tank at this point. Like, honestly, it's just, I'm just like, yeah, go ahead. Like, take your time during the 2 minute. It's fine. You don't need to score.
Welcome to watching the drought era Buffalo Bills, where it's like week 9 and you're like, just please lose out so we can get a top 4 pick, please. Like, yeah.
It's a strange place to be, man. But yeah, I think Belichick, the coaches, earned it. Again, his defense has been outstanding. The special teams haven't been great, and the offense hasn't been great. But those are also two sections of the team that he usually puts on someone else. Now, the offense, I think Bill O'Brien has done a solid job. He isn't as innovative as you'd like. He isn't really adopting as many of the more modern principles to create space that a lot of offenses are using. But, he's back in the NFL. It's his first season. I'm hoping that maybe next season he'll incorporate more of those. Also, route spacing has been off. There's I feel like a third down or two a game where guys are way too close. And I'm like, I don't know where you expect the quarterback to throw because all the defenders are in the same area. But I mean, you could do a lot worse at NFL offensive coordinator. And I really do think more often than not, he's scheming opportunities and they're not being taken advantage of. But Belichick, the GM, needs to get his keys taken away. Like, he's drunk. And he's been drunk.
That's the comment that just came in from Spin. He said they can keep Belichick as a head coach, just fire him as the GM.
Literally, that's what it is. Because offensively, I think he lost the plot years ago. It's been the same thing for a long time where their offensive picks have not really panned out in a long time. You got Demario Douglas. He was a 6th round pick, so I'm not giving you a lot of credit for that. Cole Strange was really starting to play much better. I will say that. He was coming back from his injury. Post-bye was playing the best football of his career, then gets hurt, which really sucks. But even still, you can very much debate him being a 1st round pick. You can one way or the other, but I think at this point it's fair to say it's a topic that warrants discussion. And none of his other offensive draft picks have really panned out either. And this has been a long-term thing, and it's a big reason. Or the talent acquisitions. He got Hunter Henry, who's been super reliable, solid player for them since he got here. But he should not be one of the guys taking up some of the most cap space on your entire team.
And that same offseason was the Jonnu Smith deal.
And he's not on the team anymore.
No, and even you saying no disrespect. I always hate throwing too much shade at players because it's extremely hard to make it in the NFL, let alone survive for multiple years. But you were rattling off the injuries earlier, and you were like Kendrick Bourne, their best receiver. Kendrick Bourne should not be your best receiver on an NFL football team. No disrespect to Kendrick Bourne, even though I really still don't like Kendrick Bourne after it was. The wild card game where the Bills just rocked the Pats a couple years ago. The 2020.
But he was one of the only people who showed up.
Yes, but he scored when the Bills were up 30, and he mean mugged the camera and flexed. I was like, bro, it's the 3rd quarter, and you're down 30 something. What are you doing? But again, to your point, that talent acquisition piece just through the draft and through free agency, something that it always felt like when. And maybe Brady glossed over some of it, as I know something that people immediately say. But in the Brady Belichick era, the pipeline was always sound, and it wasn't just offensively. They were finding guys to consistently rotate through on both sides of the ball. And yeah, maybe they weren't getting all pros regularly, but they would get these consistent B- to B+ dudes from out of nowhere all the time. And now you're not getting that. Plus, your higher end resource investment pieces in the draft or from a financial perspective also were not hitting. And that's just sucking the life out of everything.
And a lot of that is also the talent development. You have to think Chad O'Shea was the receivers coach for a long time. I think he's an offense coordinator, is an offense coordinator somewhere right now. He's had success and he's gone other places and he's a respected coach in the league. He was a very good receivers coach for New England, responsible for helping develop guys like Edelman, coaching up guys like Amendola. The receivers, like you said, they weren't household names, but they were good players in that system. Now, one thing about the Patriots offense that I feel like gets lost sometimes is that they had Gronkowski for a lot of that time.
Good point.
One of the most dynamic football players of all time. So I like to put that in there. Let's not forget, it's not like they were going out there with no one. Gronk was a huge difference maker. But then they also had guys like James White, who is one of the greatest receiving backs of all time. So, that's how you control the middle of the field. Then you have Julian Edelman. You have Wes Welker. You have Danny Amendola. They always had 3 guys who could still control the middle of the field. Your
plus a good offensive line, and Dante Scarnecchia, one of the best O-line coaches ever.
Dante Scarnecchia, that's the thing. Their offensive line has been injured both through injuries and just inconsistent play. It's been all over the place since around Brady's last season. And a big part of that is Scarnecchia not being there. like they've gone through. They had Adrian Clem. Last year they had Matt Patricia, who was also the offensive coordinator coaching the offensive line. Like it's been a lot of turnover at that spot over the past few years. And when you have Scar, you can take a guy who was a high school wrestler and played 1 year of collegiate football and turn him into a guy who can start like 3 games for you. That's fine.
Yeah.
Most people can't do that. Great offensive line coaches don't leave where they are because they're immensely valuable assets and are seen as basically co-head coaches in terms of the amount of responsibility that you're given and how highly revered you are. So one, the offensive line has been a mess for a while. And it's because I don't think the development has been there. Also, the talent acquisition has not been there. They just don't invest in offensive tackles for some reason since they drafted Isaiah Wynn. And then receivers, Troy Brown, like bless his heart, Patriots legend as a player, they have not been able to develop receivers well, and it is mind-blowing. Like, the talent hasn't been great, but still, like, Demario Douglas is coming along, but the struggles he's had throughout the season were, like, immense, where he's running some of the most basic routes, taking extra steps, taking forever to get his eyes around. Like, Tyquan Thornton's telling me he has freedom in his route, and I'm like, you don't have an offensive line. What do you mean you have freedom in your routes? For who? Like, you're fast. Be fast. Doesn't mean you have to take 4 seconds to look at the quarterback. Like, you know, it's been that. So it's been poor development, it's been poor acquisition. It's just all over the place. But yeah, man, I don't even remember what the question was. But I mean, a big part of it has been the development of these players as well. The acquisition has not been great, especially in the veterans, but the people they draft are just not panning out. And again, part of that is because they're reaching, but also part of that is because you're not getting the best out of the guys that you got. We haven't even gotten a single one of the matchups yet. Bro, oh my God.
No, everything you said is on point. Like I appreciate what you're saying. I just feel your emotions so much because this is just like, this is what every Bills conversation was like from like, really in the early parts of the drought with Bledsoe, there were some like positive moments for the Bills, but really since like, I don't know, like 2006 through like 2018, like this was like every single year conversation. Like you're just like, we don't draft anyone that works. Like we get good guys and they leave in free agency. The free agent acquisitions suck. We spent too much money on this guy. This didn't work. Like it's just all bad. And then like, it's all it takes is like that one, like, it's just one little question and it just spawns this like avenue of responses because you just have so much frustration that's built up.
I've never answered like so what's going on with the Patriots in less than 5 minutes? Like, I don't know how. I black out and then I come back to it. I'm like, I'm out of breath. I feel like I've been going for quite some time. But yeah, man, and the worst thing is you say like, oh, the good free agents leave us. Our good free agents want to stay and they kick them out. Joe Thuney and Jacoby Myers. Like, imagine what this team would look like with Joe Thuney and Jacoby Myers. Like, at the very least, they're like probably a solid team. You could have had both those guys. They wanted to stay. And you were like, no, I don't feel like paying you. And they go somewhere else and have success. So that's another one of the really frustrating parts is that the guys who do like they ran Brady out of town because they couldn't get him any weapons. Like the guys that everybody loves don't want to go anywhere, but you run them out because you don't pay them and treat them like crap.
I love it. I feel you, bro. It's okay. Let it out. I'm here for you.
It's too late for this. I'm supposed to be like winding down for the night. I'm riled. I could run a marathon.
It's after 9 on the East Coast. We're supposed to be winding down and just calming and relaxing. But dude, you like, I feel you, but those moves too. I love that you brought up the Thuney and Jacoby Myers piece because I really just Joe Thuney's the type of guy that like, and I'm not saying the Patriots aren't a good organization, but that's the type of dude like a good organization does not let get away, let alone the Patriots who like their foundation on offense has been good old line play for forever. Like even going back to the early Brady years with like Matt Light and like everything you had on the O-line, you just had these solid guys like from bookend to bookend. And then Thuney gets away. The Jacoby Myers one really pissed me off. I love Jacoby Myers. I wanted him to go to the Bills, but I knew he was going to get priced out. And he signs with the Raiders for the exact contract you gave Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, so you basically say you'd rather pay Juju Smith-Schuster than you would Jacoby Myers. Like, say it's not, and we're not even talking like, oh, well, you know, Juju took $1 million less or $2 million, like not even some negligible difference. They got the exact same deal, same term, same overall monetary value, same AAV, may have been broken down individually from like, maybe different from like a year standpoint and how the cash is spent out. But you gave Juju Smith-Schuster the same deal the Raiders gave Jacoby Myers. And I'm taking Jacoby Myers 10 out of 10 times, especially given what Juju showed last year and the issues that he's had from an injury perspective and how that may be limiting him. But I just thought Jacoby, like, when he got away from the Pats and then I saw what he signed for, I was like, oh, that's, especially with what Christian Kirk and Zay Jones got the year before. I was like, well, the receiver market's broken. So I thought Myers was going to cash in big time. And when he didn't, I was like, okay, maybe the market's resetting. But then the immediate thought that came back in my head was, wow, like the Pats could have afforded him. And then they gave Juju the same deal like a day or two later, literally. And I did not get
And
that.
Jacoby said that like he wanted to come back and they were just like, they didn't make any effort. They basically let him walk. And I'm not gonna lie, I was one of the people who understood at the time. Now I'm thinking that this is the same Juju that just won a Super Bowl, who just led a Super Bowl winning team in receiving yards. And also one thing, and I'm guilty of this with Tooney and Myers, like I've learned my lesson, is that sometimes consistency gets boring. And it's like, you know exactly what you're getting out of Jacoby. But I'm thinking like, okay, Juju, he's better after the catch. He can make those, like he had plenty of body catches. He was an exit a lot of the time for KC. So he had some work on the boundary. Like, was he creating a lot of separation? No. But, you know, Jacoby, he is a separator. But at the same time, he gave you kind of that, like, he's still a big body and he can work when you get him, you know, scheme touches. So I figure, okay, in the slot role, you know, he'll be a chain mover who can, you know, break a crappy tackle and go for a big game, which Jacoby doesn't really do. So I'm saying, okay, you're probably going to get the same average. And like their numbers weren't that dissimilar. That's the thing. Like I was backing it up with film and numbers where it's like they're not super dissimilar. They just get their yards and production in different ways. But yeah, man, Juju's knee was still busted from the AFC Championship game, which when he signed, I was expecting, okay, he must have been medically cleared. He's fine. He doesn't play in OTAs. He takes a while to come and play in training camp and like isn't a full participant. And it's like, all right, well, why did you let Jacoby walk if Juju is here and he's on one knee? Like, what are we doing here? Because you're thinking it's probably going to take him months to get back to full strength. And he's old, like relatively, he's older. He's young, but he has a lot of tread on his tires. He already has injuries. So I'm thinking, okay, if he's medically cleared, fine. But if he's banged up, then what are you thinking? Especially because he has to learn, like, it's relatively new system. Like, you know, for Jacoby, it's just different iterations. It's a lot of the same stuff. But yeah, man, I talked myself into it. Free agency, we all do it. Like, you know, there are some people who are more disciplined than me who understand, like, no, this is bad right now. I see it. You'll figure it out later. I'm learning. It's a process, but yeah, man, it was a bad move at the time that I convinced myself was fine. And Juju had one good game against the Steelers. He hasn't played since, so that's that. And it was literally his only good game as a Patriot. And then he disappeared because he has an ankle injury, which is significant. I'm not going to act like, you know, he disappeared because he just didn't want to play. Like, dude was limping bad. Like on TV and on video, you could see he's walking like this. So, you know, I don't want to give him any crap for that, but it didn't make sense then if you were smarter than me, and it makes even less sense now.
Yeah, it's just been one of those years for the Pats where it seems like everything that can go wrong will and or has gone wrong. And they're sitting there right now. I mean, sitting here at 4-11 with the 4th pick in the 2024 NFL draft. And, you know, you talked about, you're already looking at potential quarterback options and, you know, high resource guys at that top of the draft. And it's just been, a weird position to see the Pats being in. And I was really looking forward to the overall competition when I thought the AFC East would be this year. Obviously, Rodgers goes down in week 1, so that just derails everything the Jets were going to be. But I thought, again, injuries have played such a role with this Patriots team. And I don't want to act like they were going to be, you know, some 14-3 team if they stayed healthy, but I thought they would fight for a playoff spot. I thought they would. If you would have told me the Pats would have finished this year and been like 10-7, 9-8, like if everything fell right and they could be 11-6, I'd be like, okay, I could potentially buy that. Like I could be talked into that. And so just to see, how many things have gone wrong. And it's like we said, it's unprecedented territory. And I think that's what makes the week 7 loss for the Bills to the Patriots that much more upsetting for the fan base, because the Patriots are sitting here at 4-11, and one of those wins came against the Buffalo Bills in week 6. And if the Pats win again and have 5 wins on the year and 2 of them came against the Bills, it will just I do not want to be around for like the aftermath and the fires of that. It would just be chaos. But like,
Especially if they say Belichick's job, that would be hysterical. Miss
I
out on the
just,
playoffs, keep Belichick in the division just to give Josh Allen some headaches.
dude, it's making like the hair on the back of my neck like stand up. It's like frustrating me to even think about it, let alone like acknowledge it. And but again, that's like the spot that we're in and where both teams are in. And I think that's like a nice little segue to really get into the meat of this episode. We always get so sidetracked with just like general good talk like ball conversation. Like, but it's especially with a week or a team like this where just how many things have gone wrong for the Patriots juxtaposed with what they've been traditionally as an organization. Like it's a fun, not even a fun in like a Schadenfreude type of way where like, oh, it's fun to talk about how bad the Patriots are. But from like a case study standpoint, it's a very interesting like topic, let alone the go forward, because there's so much rot in a lot of ways that you have to cut out and improve to get this team to stack. Like, again, there are some core pieces. Like I think Kyle Duggar is a stud. I really feel I mean, again, I don't want the Patriots to win anything ever. I was so bummed when Gonzalez went down. Like, I loved his tape at Oregon, and I was so pumped to watch him play in this defense. I thought it was such a perfect fit. He, like, again, highlighting, like, we have all these little microcosms and examples of anything that, can and will go wrong has for the past this year. But even though they are sitting there at 4 wins, one of those wins is coming against the Buffalo Bills. Another potential one could be looming on the horizon. And Taylor, that is where we get to the crux of the episode, the meat of the episode, as we go inside week 17 between the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. And we each give our top 3 matchups that will go far in terms of deciding who wins this game, how, and why. For those playing at home, whatever matchup pieces you have, feel free to throw them up into the chat. I'm going to start everything conversation-wise as we go through, and then once we say our goodbyes to Taylor, we'll go back and do some live chat conversation topics as we close out the episode, so that's always a fun piece. Also, as Taylor and I each give our answers for those playing at home, feel free to say how much they're awesome. Feel free to chastise them and tell us how terrible we are. Whatever floats your boat, throw it up into the live chat. The world is your oyster. Taylor, you are the guest. You can start with whichever one you want, your most important, or the one you like the least, or the one that annoys you the most, whatever criteria you decide, in order to make this decision. It's up to you. The floor is yours. What do you got first?
I'm going to go with something positive from a Pats side so that I can, get some good juju flowing on my end. I got Christian Barmore versus really the interior for the Bills, but specifically Osiris Torrance, because he whooped your boy a few times when these teams last met. Now, I like Osiris Torrance. I've said that on this network before. I am a fan. But at the same time, Christian Barmore is really starting to live up to his potential, which was already immense. Today, Gerard Mayo was talking about him, who's their de facto defensive coordinator.
Yes.
And he was saying, yeah, we already knew that Barmore was a great pass rusher. Incredible effort, beyond the size and the explosiveness and all the physical tools. He has everything that you want in a really great interior lineman. But on top of it, the effort's incredible. The way he would chain moves together, it looked like second nature when he was in college, where it was the whole crux was that he didn't have a ton of playing time and you weren't really sure. And I think it was something he kind of flamed out or something at one point in the year, but whatever.
Yeah, because he fell a little bit, in that he was from a talent guy, was one of those easy top 5, top 10 pick kind of guys. And then he fell a little bit because of the concerns that he had. And it was one of those oh, of course the Patriots got him and he's going to turn into a stud. And he's had even just from what I've seen in watching the Pats, obviously don't watch them anywhere near as much as you do. He flashes for me all the time. He does something where I'm he's so good. And I remember seeing him in college and thought he could translate, and it makes sense that he's being talked about in that way because he has everything you want and he's putting it together more consistently now. He's got true dominating type of play on the interior in this era that we're ushering in of truly dominant interior players that exist with Aaron Donald and Chris Jones and Jeffrey Simmons and those guys of the world, Barmore and Quinnen Williams. Barmore can be talked about in that tier if he continues on this trajectory. Sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. No. I mean, no, I like hearing from other perspectives because the thing is, everybody that I talk to about Barmore, Film with Friends, you're going to be on this week. You were on last time we did this. Anybody I have on and I bring up Barmore, they're like, dude, he's a beast. He's a monster. It's not just, and I was I've been saying he deserves he's been playing at an all pro caliber level. And obviously, like you said, interior defensive line is a loaded position. I am not saying he's going to be voted an all-pro. You got Justin Madubuike, who's had balling this season. Aaron Donald, obviously. Then you got Chris Jones, DeForest Buckner. So many. Quinnen Williams. you can forget how many elite
Yeah.
defensive tackles there are. So literally, it's who's your flavor? What do you like? You know, do you like stats? Are you really looking at the film and seeing down to down? Because frankly, like you talk about Chris Jones. Chris Jones doesn't make a huge impact against the run unless you're coming right at him.
Yeah.
Like if you run away from him, he's not really going to do a whole lot.
No, you throw a double team his way, he doesn't want it. Like if he's not getting like quick gap penetration right off the snap, he's not really going to be a factor in the run.
And that's where Barmore for me is different. Ed Oliver also in the chat. Like, yes, I'm on the Bills chat, and I didn't mention Ed Oliver. Like, that's what I'm talking about. There's a lot. What separates Barmore for me is that even on the plays where he's not producing, one, like you look at even wins without pressure, PFF track, it's a beaten defender stat. He's third in the NFL, which means that he's winning even if he's not getting pressure. And then he's also like, I think right now he's top 3 in sacks because he just had 3 against the Broncos. Against like a solid guard in Quinn Miners. I honestly still don't know how to say his last name.
No, you're right. It's Miners. Yeah, you nailed it.
Nice, got it. But no, like he's the numbers are there, but also he's standing up to double teams. Like you'll see like him get a really good rib shot on a double, and he'll move and come right back in place. Like he's really, really disciplined. I think he's missed 1 tackle this season or something like that. Wow. Like he's not missing tackles. He's gap sound. He's not shooting up field very often because the Patriots are a gap sound type of scheme. So he's 2-gapping where he's just controlling guys, reading where the ball is, and it's textbook. And that's what all the coaches are saying about him is like, it's the consistency, it's the health. That's a big thing is that he was healthy even in the offseason. So he really attacked it, and that's what's helped him because that's what I was saying. Gerard Mayo was like, we already knew he was a great pass rusher. What surprised, and he said this, what surprised us or me was how he is as a run defender this year. Because you see snap after snap, like his technique is good, his pad level is low. It's like 6'5", so that's not easy for him. He's getting under guys' pads. You know, he's extending like it's consistently good. And then defense that emphasizes discipline. Sometimes it's even rushing off the edge because they like their 3-man rushes where they'll drop the edges, kind of flood coverage, and just try to be like, all right, like we just are going to force you to check it down. I could go on for him for a long time. But really, it's between the discipline, the production, the consistency. He's been a monster. And I singled out Cyrus Torrence because, one, he's a rookie. That's a huge red flag. I don't care who you are. Unless you're Quentin Nelson, like you're probably going to struggle against an all-pro caliber talent. And beyond that, I think he gave it to everybody. I think even the tackles on the Bills line. So he's not the only one. I just think that Barmore is going to be a handful for anybody who lines up against him.
Yeah, and you know, also I think putting him in, and I know people in the chat immediately with the season that Ed Oliver is having, and everybody's like, "Oh, Ed Oliver, Ed Oliver." I skipped over Ed Oliver and naming like dudes like that because I just see Ed Oliver as especially in the conversation in relation to Barmore, I just see them as different players. Like Barmore is listed at 6'5", 315 pounds, and Ed Oliver is not that from a size and frame perspective. And they play the game differently given like their size and frame and structure. Not to say that, again, one is bad or one is worse or anything like that, but they're just like a different type of player. And yeah, Barmore's sitting there, top 20 in pass rush productivity and that win percentage piece from an interior perspective. I think he's also he's also 11th in stop percentage against the run. Yeah. So just what he's done. And then also considering what he's doing on the line, given the injury to Judon, and then Uche not being what Uche was last year, where he was number 1 in the entire NFL in pass rush productivity last year with what he was doing off the edge, like combined with the inconsistency they've had on the back end, like it's not like Barmore is doing well and it's, oh yeah, well, he plays on this line with so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. No, like it's been a team that's consistently been in a state of flux. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like it's been a team that has had to withstand a multitude of injuries. Again, even just defensively, even if we focus on just one side of the ball, injuries consistently throughout all levels of the defense throughout the majority of the year. And he's been one of the constants sitting there playing in all 15 games and week in and week out, being a force. And I also forgot too, just how far he fell. He was taken in the second round. Totally spaced on that. I thought it was like more like middle of the first or still in the first, because he was just talked about so highly and so highly regarded. Like he was one of those dudes who dominated when he was at Bama. And then I remember like the concerns that people had and the quote unquote red flags, and he just fell and fell and fell. But I did not remember that he dropped out of the first round completely and dropped to the second. Yeah, he's flashed a bunch in matchups against the Bills. Like Judon usually gets the attention for like Bills fans, like, oh, we got to worry about Judon. And I think Uche started to get some recognition last year as well. But Barmore, like you said, Barmore has been a dude who's consistently won on the interior. And especially considering his size and the pace that he plays with that size, he can give Mitch Morse problems at center if he wants to line up directly over the center. If you want to shade, or again, you're matching him up against a rookie. Let's see what he got. Let's see what he has. Put him up against Connor McGovern. See what he can do with his size and his athleticism. Like, it presents some fun matchup pieces on the inside. I like that. I don't know where to start now. You know what? I'll start.
Plans.
I know, right? I'll start with. I always rank everything evenly for the most part, and I never know how to title things. I'll start with, to continue this conversation regarding the Pats defense, and Barmore. I'll start with that side of the ball and what I got. So my first piece I'll go with here, and again, I'm horrible at titling things. What Buffalo Bills run game do we see in this game? That's what I'm going to start with here.
Yeah.
So versus Dallas a couple weeks ago, we saw the Bills spam the hell out of their tackle wrap play, their dart concept. And it's been one of their core concepts all year. Dart, duo, and mid zone are their bread and butter, their go-tos. They'll rotate them a bit, but that tackle wrap dart play, it fits everything they do. You get Deion Dawkins on the move, you get Spencer Brown on the move, you take advantage of their athleticism, like you allow Cyrus Torrence to pin, given his strength and his mauling ability, like that is what you want. So the Bills spam the hell out of that against Dallas versus the Chargers. That wasn't working. Chargers were getting penetration and push on the interior. They were winning on that front side, tackle pull side, and closing down that gap. Something the Jets have done at times against the Bills, something that other teams have done to slow down that concept. And I say all that to say I'm still baffled that Dallas did nothing to adjust to that in that game against the Bills. I don't know. Like, for as much as the talk was the Bills' run game and how successful it was, I thought equally, if not more so, the conversation should have been, how did Dallas not adjust at all? They just kept willingly letting the same thing happen. And at most, they'd be like, well, we'll take the front side edge player and we'll try and squeeze down on the inside. It's like, cool. Then they're just going to bounce it on the outside. And they're like, okay.
Right.
We'll box it in and force it. Okay, Cook's going to cut inside and gouge it for 15. Like, you're not doing anything. You're still losing. You have one man for two gaps. You are going to lose. It's not happening. But I digress. So versus the Chargers, that concept wasn't working for the Bills. So the Bills went to their mid-zone runs. They dressed it up with some jet motion, specifically with Trent Sherfield, spammed the hell out of that. It really started to help their run game and turn things around. And like I mentioned, we've also seen them lean on duo at certain points this year. So overall, the first part, like, what concept do we see versus the Pats? How much of it do we see? What else gets sprinkled in? And can they be successful in which concept and how much? Versus the Chargers in Week 16 for the Buffalo Bills, they were 26th in EPA per attempt for running back carries only at negative 0.25 EPA per attempt. Horrible. Even more so, considering it's a 0.27 drop in EPA per attempt for where the Bills are on the year. The Bills' running back run game is fourth in the NFL right now in EPA per attempt at 0.02. They have been one of the best running back run games in the NFL the entire year. Philly has kind of ebbed and flowed a bit. Baltimore's been there. Miami has been wild with A-Chain and Mostert. A-Chain has some crazy, I actually might pull them up because they're just nuts. Like, A-Chain is just crushing yards per attempt and EPA per attempt and blowing everybody out of the water. Like, so that's influencing Miami's room. But Buffalo has been consistently like a top 4 run team from an EPA per attempt perspective all year. Like, and I always like to put in the running back pieces because if you don't, everyone's immediately like, oh, well, Josh Allen scrambles, Josh Allen design runs. It's like, no, forget that. Just the combination of James Cook and Latavius Murray and then Ty Johnson and what he's been recently. Leonard Fournette played this last game, but I think if Johnson's healthy and his shoulder's all right, he goes back in. Again, the Bills have had a successful running back run game. But against the Chargers, like I said, 26th in EPA per attempt versus being 4th overall on the year. I think it's no coincidence that we saw a sluggish and often disjointed Buffalo Bills offense versus the Chargers. And not coincidentally, the run game not being a good part for them in that game. The run game is a significant easy button for the Bills offense and more importantly for Josh Allen. Josh Allen was off his game against the Chargers and the run game wasn't present enough from a successful standpoint to carry the workload. And I think, again, that's why it was such a fight and it was such a drag out effort from the offense because Allen was off. And then more importantly, the run game wasn't working. And I've said it for several years. I usually work it in somehow into some matchup piece, depending on what the week to week looks like. But it's always been too much just to place the offense onto Josh Allen's shoulders and expect him to carry everything completely. You need a pivot. You need a secondary pitch. And that's just in general, but especially given the play style of Josh Allen, his high variance, yin and yang, pendulum swinging, positively and negatively aspect of Josh Allen. And then especially even more this year, where he's been prone to poor decision-making, inaccuracy, and reads. And all of that isn't exclusive to his time under Ken Dorsey. Again, this Chargers game, first throw of the game, he dirts it to Stefon Diggs. The first third down of the first drive, he misses Latavius Murray wide open. Granted, Murray's releasing onto the backfield, needs a check down piece, but Allen doesn't even register him and doesn't even see him. He struggled at points this year with his hot reads and reading pressure and all that kind of stuff. We've seen more of the yin and yang of Josh Allen this year, and it's been more costly than it has been in previous years. And tying that in with the run game piece, Bills have 9 wins on the year. 6 of their 9 wins have come when they've had a positive EPA per attempt for running back carries. Conversely, they've had 6 games with a negative EPA per attempt for running back carries, and they've lost 3 out of those 6 games. And the 3 they won, where they had a negative EPA per attempt for running back carries, those 3 games were against the Jets, the Buccaneers, and the Chargers. So not exactly the 3 best teams, although Tampa Bay isn't awful. And also those games had games where the game script helped them not be punished for not being able to run. They did a great job with their RPO game against Tampa. The Jets game, they had a ton of explosive plays in the past. Well, not a ton of explosive plays in the past, but a couple explosive plays in the past. And you're playing against that Jets offense where they were just giving the ball back to the Bills offense over and over and over. And then the Chargers, not great as well. So that's a Bills offense piece and how important it is to them. And also, like you talked about earlier, the Pats defense is very, very good against the run. They're second in DVOA against the run this year, and they're first in EPA per rush allowed at negative 0.21. The Falcons are second at negative 0.15. So that's a significant gap between the Pats at first. Don't raise your eyebrows so dare you. That's a significant gap between the Pats at 1 and literally everybody else. Also, fun fact, carries in general, not just running back carries. The Bills' lowest EPA per attempt on the ground this year came against the Patriots in week 7 at negative 0.19. That includes
surprising because they couldn't tackle for a damn in that game.
So I saw that too, and I was kind of like, but again, that's including Josh Allen runs, scrambles, everything.
Because Josh Allen wasn't running that well. I remember that.
But even if you're doing just running back carries only, the Bills had an EPA per attempt in that game of negative 0.09, which was their 5th lowest on the year. The Bills offense struggles from a ease perspective when they are unable to run the football with their running backs. It opens up so much. I think from a schematic perspective, I've said it a bunch on the show, and it's known at this point, like, if you can run the ball, it's easier. It opens up the RPO game. It opens up the play action game. No, you don't need a good run game to have a good play action game. Yes, it does help. So on and so forth, all of those pieces, like the ease that it affords the offense. But I also think it's just able to calm and relax Josh Allen. It makes him feel like the world isn't on his shoulders. He doesn't feel like he has to do everything himself. We know at this point, Josh Allen presses when he feels like things need to get done. That's how he plays in general. And if he makes a mistake, he presses further. And usually when he presses further, it doesn't work out. Usually things get worse and we get this negative snowball effect that happens with Josh Allen and this Bills offense. The run game, one, is tremendous. Again, it's been a top 4 unit all year. They've got some variety. They have something to hang their hat on. They can go zone. They can go gap. They've got a good rotation of running backs. People know what their roles are and what they need to do. I think this run game is a legitimate piece of the offense and needs to be going forward just because it's awesome to be able to pass the ball and run the ball. It gives you a true pivot, but also even more important for this team, given the nature of Josh Allen, the nature of how he's played this year and the struggles we've seen for him. And then again, going up against the Pats in this game where they are very good against the run. So if you can't run the ball against the Pats, and we've seen the Bills struggle offensively when they haven't been able to run the ball, that potentially works into the Patriots' defense favor.
Yeah, I think the only way they're going to have a lot of success is if they can get outside, because you're not running inside against Gottschalk, Barmore, Bentley, Tavai, Lawrence Guy. Like, that's just not happening.
They're built to stop the run in the spine. Like, you're not vertically displacing them on the interior. You're not going to win that matchup, or at least you're not going to win that consistently.
Right. What you can do, if you're going to attack the middle, it's going to be with that wide zone where you get Bentley and Tavai going sideways, and maybe you get an alley where you pin them. But even then, like, it's still hard to get past the first level. Like, that's, you got to handle them first. So if they do run inside, I think it's going to be, any success is going to come on that wide zone where you try to create the horizontal displacement, because you're probably not moving them off the ball. And if you do, you're not going to get a whole lot after it. if you could get outside. Like if James Cook can manipulate them to slow down a little bit as he's getting outside the tackles and get that one step, we've seen he can explode. I haven't studied the last game yet extensively. I'm mostly going off memory. But I feel like when Cook had success, it was when he did get outside because he's just so fast. Like when you get to that point, the Patriots aren't built they're built to pin you inside. They do a great job of that. Like Anthony Jennings, he usually doesn't even let guys get outside because he has this play where he and then one of the safeties will be down in the slot. No blitz. So Jennings crashes inside. So the back has to make a decision quick and they can't get outside. If they get past him, they're probably not getting past Duggar or Peppers when they're coming off the edge. So it's hard to even get there, but if you do, and you can get, usually a double team on the edge will be enough to kind of just get that crease and get your athleticism going. So if they get anything, I don't think it's going to be with the duo or gap, or I don't think it's going to be any of that. I think it's going to be manipulating by going side to side and just trying to win a battle of athleticism and get into space.
I think that's a fair point. And that's where I want James Cook in space against Tavai and in space against Bentley. That is advantage Cook. I don't want James Cook banging in the A gap with Jawan Bentley coming downhill and being hemmed into those areas. And again, that's an aspect where the Bills, for a Chargers front that got pushed around a bunch this year, they were, again, I haven't gotten fully through. Christmas week has been absolute hell, but that I want to see get through the tape when I get through that all 22 piece fully. They were just squeezing gaps on the interior, which is why the Bills went to their mid zone pieces, because they were like, okay, we can use our athleticism. We can take advantage of them trying to get upfield in a hurry. And then Cook is just very much like water. He's so fluid. And when they run those zone runs, he'll go wherever and do whatever. And that's where the success came. But again, they had to pivot to that late second quarter and then into the second half because they were trying dart early on and just wasn't working. Bring the cat up on the screen. I love cats. Bring the cat up on the screen. Let's see what's good.
She just ran away. She's temperamental.
I don't
yeah, she's adorable though. If she gets close, I'll try. She's just the cutest little
All
thing.
I saw was the little speck of white from her face, and then I saw the tail, and I was like, oh, cat.
That happens all the time. She'll just jump up, and I try to just be normal, and then just see a little.
That's all I saw was the tail come up. She was like, don't ignore me. Acknowledge my presence. I like that. I like it a lot.
That's exactly what she does. She's the boss, so.
I mean, cats, they're little furry assassins that capture our heart and then figure out ways to try and kill us in our sleep. So I'm all about it. But yeah, this piece is... Yeah. I love how you were literally like, okay, I'll show her. And she was like, no. And I was like, yeah, she heard me. It's like she heard
I don't want the attention.
Yeah, I don't want to be on camera. I don't like social media and being acknowledged. Yeah, I'm interested to see that piece because it's also just from a bare bones aspect. The Bills run game, good. Pat's run D, good. Two good units going up against one another. What do you do? And then especially with how banged up they are on the back end. We were talking about the Pat's corners earlier offline, which I know you're going to talk about in a bit too as well. That should be advantage Bills, but then the Pats know that that's advantage Bills, but then they also know what they can do against the run. And just, I think that run game piece starts the chess match in this game. But then again, I usually think that every week because how you fit the run determines how you play coverage on the back end and what you can do from a numbers perspective, thus what you can do from a coverage perspective. Man, I'm very excited. I'm very nervous for this game as I am for everything, but I'm also very excited. The floor is yours. Once again, Mr. Taylor Kyles, what is your second point that you've got for Bills versus Pats in week 17?
Yeah, so it's going to be, I know, Steph has been quiet lately, but I mean, against this matchup, this is where you'd probably expect if there's going to be a turnaround, it's going to be this week. Jonathan Jones has been in and out of the lineup. He's just been banged up all season. He's doing his best. He's an older guy, super solid player when he's in there, but I think he missed the entire second half or something last week. So, he's just really been out of sorts. Miles Bryant's been solid in the slot, honestly made some plays for them at times, but Bills fans also understand that Miles Bryant has his limitations. He has, I will say, he's gotten smarter. He's gotten a little bit faster. You still don't love him in one-on-one matchups against man, but he's so good at understanding leverage and spacing and depth and things like that, he's okay. But the point is, outside, the Patriots have Alex Austin, who some Bills fans will be familiar with. We talked about it. He's a guy where, physically nothing wows you. He's not super fast. He's not super big, but he's got decent size. He's long enough where he can be competitive. He actually almost had an interception against Pittsburgh because Mitch threw it out behind his receiver, and he almost capitalized, dropped it. But, that was a cool flash. Had one miscommunication against the Broncos where Marvin Mims kind of broke off a crosser and took off downfield. The kind of thing you see, the Bills do all the time.
Yeah.
And Alex Austin saw Russ scramble, bit upfield, and that was all it took. And then Marvin Mims was alone with Juwan Bentley 40 yards downfield, 50 yards downfield. So Alex Austin outside, and then Shaun Wade. So Shaun Wade, if you watch college football, you know him from Ohio State. He was great in the slot. They moved him outside, didn't work. His draft stock plummeted. Got drafted by the Ravens late, and then wound up getting traded to the Patriots before he even played a snap for Baltimore outside of the preseason. So he has been okay. Like, he hasn't given up. That's the thing about the Pats. They don't give up a lot of deep shots. Like, they've been very disciplined in that regard, and especially considering it's been just like a rotation of guys. J.C. Jackson is no longer active, or his season's done due to mental health reasons. We wish him the best. Hope he's doing well. But he was, giving up explosive plays at least once every week. There was some kind of coverage bust, and they're still pretty good against the deep ball. So that said, that's the whole plan against Josh Allen, is get the F back. But Shaun Wade is also a guy who tackling's been an issue for him throughout the season. He allowed a touchdown last week because Pats were in zero. He tried to jump a hitch or a curl. And instead of, usually you'll see a corner sit on it. When the ball's going to come out fast, you just wait for the ball to get out of the hand. You attack it. He tried to backpedal and then attack, and that just usually puts you a step behind. He was just barely missed it. Misses on the interception, whiffs on the tackle, touchdown. So these guys don't let a lot of things get over their head, but at the same time, Alex Austin, like, if you're going, if Gabe Davis wants to have his 180-yard catch a game, it's probably going to be there if he just bodies somebody up. Although, again, they are competitive. And then Steph is Steph. And you're talking about Shaun Wade and Alex Austin, who the common fan has no idea who they are. So that is a mismatch. So if the Bills are going to have a shot, I think they're going to find a way to expose those guys on the outside. Miles Bryant, not so much. He may give up a big play or two, but he's not the kind of guy that is the reason that you lose a game. But really, it's the tackling and just the inexperience that the Pats have outside in terms of guys who started a lot, seen a lot of high-quality football. I just think that's a huge mismatch in the favor of the Bills.
And that ties in with one of the points I'm about to bring up now. So Gabe Davis has been before I get to my point, Gabe Davis has been a very polarizing player for Bills fans. Everybody jumped onto the Gabe Davis is awesome bandwagon after the performance against the Chiefs in the 13 seconds game, 4 tutties, just balling out in that game. And then he's had inconsistent play. And I forget who the tweet was from during the Chargers game, but I think it was somebody from Barstool said something like, once a month, like, Gabe Davis is the best receiver in the world or something like that. And, Josh Allen threw for 237 yards against the Chargers. Gabe Davis had 130 of that. And he just makes, go ahead.
I just have a quick joke. I should have interrupted you, but I'm going to say it anyway. The Randy Moss game against the Cowboys where he just went off on Thanksgiving because he's like, yeah, screw you. You should have drafted me. That's Gabe Davis, like, once a month. It'll be like 5 catches, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he nothing for days. It's hilarious. I'm sorry, that was not a good enough joke to interrupt you for, but there. No,
I like it, and it's funny too. I think somebody also posted some highlight of it was like a 50-second Randy Moss clip, and I think the caption was it was a meme, and it was like Gabe Davis once a month. And it was Randy Moss just falling out against everybody, pulling out all these catches. But that's how he plays at times. And I mean, before this game against the Chargers, 3 out of his 4 games he had or 3 out of the past 4 games he had no catches, no yards, and then he had
literally.
Dude, literally. And then had one big blow-up game, balled out against Philly. But 3 out of the 4, he's done absolutely nothing under Joe Brady. From your outside perspective, what is your thought on Gabe Davis? When you think of him as a wide receiver, what is he to you as a person who consumes a lot of tape, not just for the Pats, but league-wide? Do you think he's a true wide receiver too? Do you think he's a low-tier wide receiver too? Is he not? However you choose to label him, whatever you choose to say, what is Gabe Davis to you from an outside perspective?
Gabe Davis is to the Patriots, or in general, he kind of reminds me of Jalen Waddle to what he is to the Patriots. We're super talented player, and he puts up good numbers. But against the Pats, it's he won't do much of anything. They're super quiet. But then he'll have one catch, where Jalen Waddle, I feel always has one catch for 50 yards against the Pats, but you don't hear from him the rest of the game. And it's okay, I'm not really scared of him, but I know he's probably going to have a big play, but he's also not going to be the reason you lose. That's how I see Gabe Davis. Is like, I'm not going to the matchup like, oh God, we want to worry about Gabe Davis. But it's like, okay, if he has like a bomb thrown at him and he catches it and like triple coverage or something for a touchdown, like, yeah, okay, sure, that happens. But he's not like Steph, because the consistency has never been there. Like, for me, a guy is someone where it's like week in, week out, like your production is there, and I see that you are someone that the team has to think about and game plan around. Gabe Davis is more like play your technique. If you are fundamentally sound, you should be fine. But like every once in a while, he's going to make a play on you because he's super talented. So that's what he is. Like, I don't think he's a guy, but I think he's a threat where just don't sleep on him. Might burn you, but again, I'm not losing sleep.
Fair. I think it's a fair assessment. So I'm gonna piggyback off your point because it ties into one of my points here. So I labeled this one, what does Bill Belichick take away? And I started with that and how it ties into your, one of your points, starting with Stefon Diggs. Like, we've seen Bill Belichick give special attention to Stefon Diggs pretty regularly in each games against the Pats. Like, sometimes it's just your typical like inside out bracket coverage. Sometimes he's rolling a safety that way. So he'll go with the good old one double. Like, we've seen him give attention to Stefon Diggs. We've also seen him give special attention to Cole Beasley at times when Beasley was at his side, doubling him from the slot. But we know Belichick has done that in the past and trying to take away Stefon Diggs. We've seen teams take away Stefon Diggs recently for the Bills. And since Joe Brady took over as offensive coordinator, and I also want to put this out as a disclaimer, like, what I'm about to say is not an indictment on or of Joe Brady. I'm not saying Joe Brady sucks. I'm not saying Joe Brady doesn't know how to use Stefon Diggs. I'm not saying anything. I'm just using the Joe Brady time takeaway because it's been a good sample size, the most recent 5 games. So since Joe Brady has taken over as offensive coordinator, and so those games would be against the Jets, against the Eagles, against the Chiefs, against the Cowboys, and against the Chargers, those 5 games, Stefon Diggs has 23 catches for 202 yards. That's an average of 4.6 receptions per game and 40.4 yards per game. Again, significantly not good whatsoever. Teams are playing him with inside leverage. So a multitude of things. They're playing him with inside leverage. They're clouding his side. They're playing extreme with their split field safety splits. There's a clip, and it's not even like the ball's on that hash. Like, ball's kind of middle of the field against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs run cover 2. And you know what safety depth is supposed to be in alignment in cover 2. Mm-hmm. And Justin Reed, so Diggs is to the bottom of the field. Snead takes inside leverage and forces Diggs outside. Justin Reed is over the top. He's the split field safety to the bottom. He's outside the numbers. He's between the numbers and the sideline, like playing over the top of Diggs. Exactly. That's how extreme. But again, Spags has always been really good at limiting Stefon Diggs, except for like Diggs had one blow-up game against the Chiefs. He's pretty much been limited in every game for the Bills against the Chiefs. But like, that's how Spags is throwing his way. The Eagles have a rep where the Eagles are playing cover 3. Byard is one of the deep safeties. They take him right off rip. So he comes down. It's basically cover 3 sky. So he's going to play the flat. Instead of spinning him down or having him kind of hang out and then cover the flat, they put him on Diggs and have him jam Stefon Diggs at the line and then drop the flat. Like, so anything. Like, sometimes, and then you got other teams that are, okay, cool, we're literally going to play man coverage, inside, outside, or your man coverage, or we're capping you over the top, whatever. Like, teams are giving Stefon Diggs that attention. And you guys, I'm saying,
I'll give you one. The Pats did last year when they played in Gillette. It was one of my favorite coverages they ran all year. It was this crazy disguise where, like, so first they shift the front. So they had like one type of defensive front and then rotated to something else. It's like late down. I think it was a long yardage situation. So super unconventional that you're just like, okay, crap. That was a weird look. Now this is a weird look. I'm not totally sure what to do. Adjust to that. Then they had like I think Miles Bryant, was it the slot dropped into like a deep half. Then they had invert to the other side. And then they had like Jabril Peppers jamming against, like, Stefon Diggs is outside the numbers. Jabril Pepper follows him just because he's the most physical guy of the defensive backs, jams Diggs, and then passes him off to the cornerback who's playing the deep half. Like, it was, I'm like, I don't usually see Belichick just pull out like all this stops to be like, I'm going to break your brain. And I'm going to show you right now, like, yeah, I'm taking away everything you like, do something about it. So to that point, like, we could see some wild stuff if Belichick is truly like, no Diggs. Not today. No, thank you.
Yep. And so I'm wondering, so that's such a great point, because he's thrown like conventional and non-conventional looks in order to limit Stefon Diggs. Like we all know, like the euphemism or phrase or whatever at this point, like Bill Belichick always takes away like your best thing or whatever he thinks your best thing is. He wants to put one hand behind your back and make you fight with the other. Like if you're right-handed, he wants to make you fight left-handed, and so on and so forth. But with what teams have done, like Stefon Diggs is struggling from a production standpoint recently, and it's really not like teams are doing anything super complicated where you're like, wow, that's beautiful schematically. It's just literal things like they know he's probably going to run a slant or run a dig or run a basic or a drag. And they're just like, nope, we're going to play with inside leverage and make you work really hard to get open or make Allen not look your way.
He's never had like a super complicated route tree. Like it's not like a Tyreek Hill where he's in motion all the time. And, he's got like, it's usually, he's in the slot. He's probably going to run a stick or like mesh or something like that. He's outside. And when you're outside, your route tree is like based on the formation. There's only like a handful of things you can even run. So, I mean, that does make sense. It's one of those things that I think made Diggs so dominant was that he wasn't trying to trick you. Like the scheme is very straightforward, but you can't stop him anyway. So it's interesting that now maybe people are just catching up and being like, all right, well, maybe we just played the tendencies. But I don't know. I haven't gotten to study Diggs yet. So it's still fascinating because, I mean, he's just such a dominant guy that I've never seen a single defensive back shut him down. It's usually just an off game, like Allen's not hitting him or something like that. So but again, this is the comeback opportunity if he's going to have one anytime soon.
And that's the thing too. Like teams will be like, oh, we're not going to let you run the slant. We know you want to run the slant, and he'll still be able to get open to a degree because he's so good and so precise. But teams have either taken him away or made Allen come off him because of their initial look on the snap. Mm-hmm. And again, that's completely fine. Like if teams are going to invest that much effort in stopping Stefon Diggs, cool. That just means
that's why you have Stefon Diggs.
Cool. That's exactly why you have Stefon Diggs. Cool. So go to Dalton Kincaid, go to Gabe Davis, go to Dawson Knox, go to Khalil Shakir, use the run game, like whatever. Like that isn't bad in and of itself. It's bad if they take Diggs away and you're sluggish and things aren't working out like they have been at spurts this year. But I'm interested to see, with the success teams have had recently in taking Diggs away, again, it's not anything overly convoluted or schematically like brilliant. Does Belichick still view Diggs as the primary thing that has to be taken away? One, that's my first question. Or two, does he think he can take him away more simplistically than he has in the past and therefore be able to divert other resources towards stopping another thing that he values? For example, does he think, listen, if we just play with inside shade and technique a little bit and inside leverage, we can take away 65, 70% of what Diggs is going to do. And if we just do that, that allows me to add more bodies to the run and trying to stop the run game or do something else. Like I'm wondering his resource allocation with this game. Because also to your point, Joe Brady hasn't really done much in trying to move Diggs around. He's not sending him in these motions. He's not really doing things to kind of alleviate some of the quote unquote predictability or known quantity from Stefon Diggs. So will Belichick aim to take Diggs away as the number one? Will he be able to do it in a more simplistic way so he can put resources towards something else? Does he have another top aim? Again, maybe he thinks, no, like I can do this pretty easily, or that's not even my number one. It's my number two now, and I want to take away the run. I'm interested to see what he wants to take away, how he does it. Also tying that into just with what it's been for Josh Allen. Like in recent years, Allen and the Bills offense has been very successful against the Patriots defense and very successful against Bill Belichick, which is a surprising piece. But just what Diggs is super intriguing to me right now. And then how, like, what Belichick might have to do to take him away isn't really too crazy. And also to kind of put some perspective. So that, again, most recent 5 games for Diggs under Brady, that first game was against the Jets. So from week 11. So from week 11 through right now, there are 117 players that have at least 20 targets, not just receivers. So this is running backs, receivers, tight ends, anybody who has a target. 117 players that have at least 20 targets. Do you want to guess where Stefon Diggs is in terms of EPA per target since week 11?
110.
97th.
Damn.
At negative.
Not that close.
No, you're close. You're 13 off. So he's at 97th. Well, I'm tied for 97th at negative 0.19. For perspective, for Bills fans, Gabe Davis is 30th at positive 0.35. So Gabe Davis is at 0.35. Stefon Diggs is at negative 0.19. Gabe Davis is 30th. Stefon Diggs is 97th. 97th out of 117 players since week 11 in EPA per target. That is where that's how bad Stefon Diggs has been. And the company that he's in that area, let's go around here. Garrett Wilson is there, but we know just how crazy things have been for that Jets offense. But a lot of it is running back based because dudes are getting the ball checked down to them. Guys get tackled. So Tony Pollard's there. Bijan Robinson is there. Devon Achane, Jalen Warren. Dalton Kincaid is 102nd. Marquise Brown, Justin Watson, Robert Woods, Josh Downs, Jonathan Mingo, Demario Douglas, Darnell Mooney. That's the company of where now. Shout out to the Pats. That's the company that Stefon Diggs has been keeping from an EPA per target perspective since week 11. And again, not the end of the world. Like since week 11, the Bills have those 5 games. The Bills are 4-1 in those games. And they probably still should have won that Philly game if Gabe Davis and Allen don't have that miscommunication in OT. That was more Josh Allen's fault than Gabe Davis's fault. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to get into it too much now. They easily could be 5-0, and you're sitting there talking about their best player on offense aside from Josh Allen, one of the premier players in the NFL, being horribly unproductive, and they still could be sitting here at 5-0, but they're there at 4-1. So again, it's been a problem, but not enough to deter them from winning football games. Has it made them struggle a bit? Yes, which is why I think it's interesting in terms of how much does Belichick want to push that button or does he not? And in which way and form and fashion? Like, I think it's a real interesting piece because, it ties into that chess piece matchup.
I could see Belichick just being like we talked through all this. It's like, yeah, like I can see somebody sitting at like an advanced scout being like, yeah, I mean, they're not really throwing things to the ball. He's not getting numbers. And he's like, I don't care. Whatever. There's stuff on Diggs.
Right.
We're going
to We're done.
All the best receivers in the NFL. Damn, I do a really good Belichick impression. I've
you
never done
do
that
a really good Belichick.
That's pretty good.
The key with the Belichick is you have to be like, what did he say? What's he saying? And then you have to like volume up. Yeah, it's so.
Dude, during training camp, real quick tangent. This man will go up to the podium, take the mic, drop it below his head, then stick it down to his chest, and then mumble. And like it's you're like standing right there, and you're like, what is he saying?
Like, are you looking around to the other beat guys like, what is this normal?
No, literally. I learned my lesson. I misreported something like I think like 2 months into training camp because I completely misheard what he said. And then I go on Twitter. I'm like, oh, he said not. And then he'll phrase stuff even like sometimes he said, he did not come to practice. And I'm like, why would you do that?
Wait,
why
so
would you pause for that long?
You've already started writing. He did, and then you're like, wait a minute, he didn't come to practice, or he did.
Roll. That was a silly tangent, but yeah, like no, genuinely, he wants to make sure you have no idea what he's saying. But yeah, I think early downs, they're going to throw everything at Josh Allen. They're not going to play like, maybe you'll see like 35, 40% cover 3, then like 25% cover 1, or however the game goes. But for the most part, I think he's going to try to show a lot of too high looks to discourage throws to Diggs and then force you to say, like, yeah, we can run the ball. Then he'll drop a safety. But I think that Diggs is the priority. Even with all the success they're having against the run, like this is an elite run defense. So you say, I like my guys better than your guys. I'm not selling out to stop the run. I'm selling out to stop Stefon Diggs because he'll kill me a lot faster if we let him pop off than James Cook will. So I think it's still going to be Diggs is the priority. But on early downs, you still take the run very seriously. Certain situations, I think, of course, you'll see extra bodies in the box. You'll see like 3 sky where there's no rotation. It's just a loaded box. But for the most part, I think they are going to prioritize Diggs like easily. And everybody else is there. Like I said, Gabe Davis is a talented player. He doesn't scare you because he's not a guy where you're like, oh, he's going to catch 5-6 balls on it. It's like 8 balls. He's not going to catch that many. And if he does, they're not usually all going to be that same type of like deep bomb or something like that, as long as you're playing sound coverage. So yeah, I think it's the Diggs show featuring James Cook and obviously Josh Allen's legs and all that. Like he is the force multiplier, but in terms of outside skill players.
I love that point though, because it ties into my first point of the run game. Because if the Pats are like, no, we're good stopping your run with like 7 or even like 6 at times, so we can do that and also have resources to take Diggs away. So good luck. like figuring something else out. And also, we're probably going to do the Pats did something really nice that I liked in the first game. And actually, it was driving me nuts on Twitter. I showed so many like clips and plays of like past stuff, and people would screenshot it and be like, I can't believe Allen didn't run here. Why wasn't he running? And they'd screenshot like the wide open gaps.
Screenshots are the worst.
And I'd be like, the reason he didn't run is because the Patriots were baiting him. Because if you waited another quarter of a second and took the screenshot, the edges are looping back inside. Like they were baiting Allen to run. It was like the those little mental games that they like to play with Allen. And so all of it like tying in together. Yeah, I'm interested. I'm extremely nervous, but also interested to see that little matchup piece. All right, Taylor, your last point. What do you got? Bills versus Pats, matchup piece number 3 that will decide this game.
So this is going to be the Patriots offensive line versus the Bills front. Kind of a cop-out because it's 2 position groups. But the Patriots offensive line is decimated. So their best player is Trent Brown. He got rolled up on last time he played the Bills. I think I mentioned that earlier in the show. But yeah, he's been hurt for a very long time. Hasn't been able to play a full game at full strength since then. Was part of a rotation with Vidarian Lowe last week. Vidarian Lowe, such a nice guy. Such a nice guy. And that's where I'll leave it.
Dude, I was gonna say when you lead with that, that's like being somebody like, oh, like Timmy's got a new girlfriend, and they're like, oh, what's she like? And my man, she's so funny.
Yeah, she's hilarious, man. Oh man, but let's not ask any more questions. That's it's the exact same thing. Where like he's a really great guy, but you know, football is not his strength at this point in his career. Cole Strange. On injured reserve because he had a knee injury. So now you got Antonio Mafi, who should not be playing. He cannot sustain blocks. He's got slow foot speed. Another guy who's a solid dude. Great story. Used to be a nose tackle. Chip Kelly turned him into a guard.
He had some of my favorite clips coming into like draft season because he would just maul dudes. But I was not expecting him to be seeing starting reps at any point as a rookie. And he was sixth round pick. 5th round pick, something late on.
No, he was a 4th round pick. 4th round pick.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit early, but I mean, the thing is, you like the physical tools. Like he seemed like an easy plug-in for Mike and Wendy, you know, down the road. But like his hands, man, it feels like he's blocking like this all the time. We're just like sliding off, and it's like, just grab them. What are you doing? Use your fingers.
Open your palms.
You are not a cat. Like, it's wild just watching how we just like, sliding over it. It's like, you're allowed to grab them. This is not beach football. Like, you're good. But he can't sustain a block. David Andrews is doing his best out there. The guy's like 33, 34 years old. Wily vet, played every snap, like, just got the award for the good guy among the beat reporters. Like David Andrews is awesome. We love him. But still, he came into the league where his athletic skill set wasn't great. He was athletic, but he was undersized and, you know, not a great athlete. And now he's older. Smarts are all there, but, you know, he'll lose if he's outmatched one-on-one or if you get him on a stunt. Right guard. Who's a right guard? City so. City's been okay, but, I mean, he's a rookie also. You got 2 rookies starting inside. He's still learning. There's a lot of mental mistakes on his tape. And then Mike Nwenu, who's really good, like good all-around offensive lineman, but he's a guard. He is somehow surviving at right tackle because he's got great athleticism for a guy who's 350 pounds. But you saw him struggle last week. You know, if he has to line up against like a Von Miller consistently or something like that, I don't know what his status. How is he? Is he alive?
Let's not talk about him.
Okay. Also for
He's a. I don't want to like rile up the chat or anybody, but he's just I didn't expect much from him this year. Mm-hmm. He's 34 in this season. Second time he's torn that ACL. So it's another ACL tear in a knee that he's already torn the ACL. He's 34. There's already a lot of miles on the tires. I wasn't expecting much from him this year. And usually you have also had that general rule of thumb that usually it's that second year back from the injury where you see guys start to regain some of their form. I think the reason he's under such a microscope is the injury to Daquan Jones and Trey White and Matt Milano and all the injuries that have happened defensively have made it priority for other guys to have to step up. And then Greg Rousseau was banged up for a little bit. AJ Epinesa has been banged up. So like the edge grouping has been messed up a little bit, but he's very much a shell of his former self. He's been good at compressing the pocket at times, like walking a tackle back into the backfield with some speed to power, getting 2 hands into the chest or a long arm and driving things back. But there's just no burst. There's no juice to his game. I don't know if it's something that'll that can be regained with a full offseason that isn't built upon rehabbing that knee. Like, he gets a regular offseason this year. We'll see what he can do, or this coming offseason. But right now, he does not pose any sort of threat whatsoever. This will be clipped after he has like a 3-sack game against the Patriots, and I'll be proven wrong. But right now, he's I hate being super negative because, again, these guys are in the NFL and he got banged up, but he's pretty non-existent. Like, you might see some kind of flash, but that flash is like pocket compression. Like, he's pretty non-existent and ineffective.
And I actually think that, now that I remember it, the Bills game was the first game that when he switched to tackle full time. And then Vaughn did have 2 or 3 wins against him where, like, I don't think he got a pressure, but he beat him pretty fast. And again, like, everybody was still adjusting.
And in that
it was only like 3 plays or something like that. It was like he barely played.
Bro, yeah, I looked it up earlier and I'm grabbing it right now. In that game, yeah, Von Miller had 6 snaps in that game. 2 against the run, 4 from a pass rush perspective. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So, like, he barely played. But yeah, that's the offensive line. Not great, Bob. Your best player is at center and at right tackle, and then you got rookies at both guard spots, and Vidarian Lowe, good guy at left tackle. So not good. But worse than that is that Bailey Zappi, I really do think he had his best game, like, of his career last week, where he was like slinging it downfield. He completed all 5 of his deep attempts, was buying time in the pocket, moving around. Like, he's night and day different than what you saw from Mac Jones, where Mac just had been beaten up so much and had so little faith in his receivers that you saw he was just taking all the easy stuff. Against the Bills, that was his best game of the season. But still, like, Bailey Zappi is playing at a higher level still. Defenses don't respect him. So on early downs, especially the Pats are under center, they're just blitzing like crazy. And usually the Patriots have success against the Bills because they handle that blitz scheme pretty well and all the aggressiveness. The backs are patient and exploit lanes. And usually when the line has chemistry and they are in sync, it's much easier to pass those things off because you know how everybody around you is going to do it. You see it, you react, you trust the guys around you, it's fine. But when you have rookies inside who are still learning, you see every week that they're not picking it up in time. They're having to think faster because everything's coming at them and people are firing downhill. They don't have time to get to the second level. Plus, they're just not making their basic blocks anyway. So the run game has been non-existent against 2 of the worst run defenses in the NFL. So I don't think they're going to be able to run, which is just going to make it even harder for them to pass block, which they can barely do as it is. So that's going to be a massive factor. I think Bailey's going to try to get the ball out of his hands on time and avoid the pass rush. But I also think that he's going to have to work some magic because it's not going to be pretty back there.
I'm like so wary of getting lured into this trap again, where the last time we were just talking about how bad the Patriots offense was, and then they just came in and just played really good football, like, against the Bills, and it just, I'm so wary of getting caught in this trap. But alas, I am going to get caught in the trap. I'm going to piggyback on your Pats offense point and tie it in with just kind of like overall, like, a higher range of thoughts than bringing in the offensive line. So again, still having nightmares about that week 7 performance. I want to put into perspective the Patriots offensive performance in week 7 against the Bills versus what they are on the year.
Okay? I saw this tweet. Okay, here we go.
So on the year, the Patriots offense, 30th in EPA per play. Week 7 against the Bills, 3rd in EPA per play. On the year, 27th in success rate. Week 7 against the Bills, 2nd in success rate. 27th in pass success rate on the year, 6th in passing success rate in week 7, 14th rushing success rate on the year, 2nd rushing success rate in week 7. They scored 29 points against the Bills in week 7, their highest point production all year. On the year, they're averaging 14.1 points per game, which is last in the league. So they doubled their points per game in that week 7 performance against the Bills. They also had 364 yards, which is way more than their average of 285.5 on the year, which is 28th. Also, again, quarterback this time will be Bailey Zappi, but in week 7, Mac Jones had a passer rating of 126.7. His passer rating on the year, 77.0. Almost 50 full points higher in week 7 than his yearly average. His second highest passer rating of the year came in week 1 against the Eagles. It was 91.3. So almost over 30 points difference between the first and second. The numbers for the Pats offense and Mac Jones aren't even in the same realm or friggin' universe. Like I go ahead. I can't even speak.
I will say though, so that was max only 100 passer rating of 100 or higher. Zappy's had two. So he's had two of the three games the Pats have had with 100 or plus passer rating, and that was in 2 of the past 3 weeks. So again, it's
Great.
not. I think he also has more deep completions in 4 starts, or like in the time that he's played, than Mac had all season. I think he has 8 deep completions, and Mac had like 3. So again, this is you would expect them to be carbon copies of each other, but you saw a version of Mac that just like was not what he, what anybody I think really expected to be. Although again, that was his best performance. He played some good ball, but Zappy is like not the same guy. In the pocket, he looks much different. He's much more aggressive. Like you saw Mac go downfield to pop a couple times. Like you're gonna see. I think what did Mac take, like 3 or something like that shots against the Bills? You probably see like 5 or 6 from Zappy.
So that was a good stat pull from you. So Mac Jones on the year, who's played obviously way more games than Bailey Zappi, he has 6 completions above 20 yards. Bailey Zappi, in his short time here playing for the Pats this year, he already has 8 completions above 20. Bailey Zappi is 8 of 20 above 20. Mac Jones is 6 of 31. 20 yards.
Bad.
Yeah.
Bad.
And Bailey Zappi is more like, to your point, like on rhythm, work the intermediate and underneath. But as he's been getting more comfortable, he's starting to get to the deeper parts of the progressions and working through. And I'm also interested to see how that works with what the Pats offense does against the Bills. In that week 7 game, Pats against the Bills, granted, again, it was Mac Jones. Mac Jones's time to throw in that game was 2.2 seconds. Now, on the year, he's at like 2.25, 2.6. So it's in a similar realm. 2.2 seconds is lightning quick. You have no chance to do anything as a pass rush. And the reason
get your hands up.
Bro, that's it. And then hope you knock it down. And the reason he was able to be in that 2.2 realm consistently and be in such rhythm, the Bills were doing the marriage between pass rush and coverage was non-existent in that game. And Mac Jones was just working the quick short throws underneath. He was able to just do wherever. He was hitting the seams. He was hitting, it lived in between the numbers and in the middle field, was able to just dissect the Bills. He worked his progressions, but he really didn't even have to go past his first or second read majority of the time. It was snap, 1-2, ball out. Snap, 1-2-3, ball out. That was it. And this Bills defense is different than it was back then. I think they were still very much reeling from the injuries that they had. Trey White went out 3 weeks before. Matt Milano and Daquan Jones both went out 2 weeks before. Ed Oliver didn't play in that week 7 game against the Patriots. There was no Rasul Douglas at the time. He was traded for later. So it's a different team from a roster perspective. But I also think they've course corrected a bit and have more of a semblance of identity now than they did in that week 7 game, just because they were still reeling from the injuries, both on the field and from the impact mentally, knowing like, these dudes are really good players. They're very important. These are our brothers. They're done for the year. Like, potentially this sucks. Like, it was emotional. It was physical. It manifested on the field. We'll see how the week progresses for the current injuries they have. But my overall point here is just keeping the Patriots offense in check. And similar to to talking about the O-line, I thought even with that Oliver out and Daquan Jones being out, I thought the Bills had the advantage holistically with their defense versus the Pats offense. The only thing you couldn't let the Patriots do in week 7, just Ramondre Stevenson is sick. Just don't let him get Ramondre Stevenson going. And that's what the Patriots did on the first drive. It was literally, oh, you're smirk. I just want to punch you right in the mouth. Like, it was just Ramondre Stevenson, like, down the throat. He got going. They worked it into the play action game. Rhythm from Mac Jones. It was literally like, there were 2 things you couldn't do. The first one was the biggest. Just don't let them run the ball effectively. They let them do that. And then the second one, just don't let Mac Jones get in rhythm, which is super easy to do because Mac Jones sucks and they let him get into rhythm. So it's arguably my most important point here, just because their offense is still really bad and it was really bad before. And I'm just still very wary of being like, oh, well, they have the advantage. They should be good to go. But they had the advantage in week 7, even though they were reeling a little bit. And the Pats made it look not that way, and I'm nervous and scared, and that's where my head is at.
I'm sorry. Wait, did we even get to yours? I know we love our tangents. Was that all just on the offensive line versus defensive line?
No, that was my point in general, is just keeping the Pats offense in check, but it ties into your point of like, the Pats offense is so wounded and banged up, but like, they also weren't great in week 7, and they also weren't a threat in week 7. Like, they're kind of not a threat now, but like Bailey Zappi is better than Mac Jones right now, but then their offensive line is banged up worse. And then the weapons are worse because there's there's all these like things where it's like, oh, well, this should be like hands up or like thumbs up for the Bills, but it should have been in week 7 as well. And so I'm just like, I feel like I'm half in, half out. I'm scared and worried.
3 things to watch out for. This is like Bailey Zappi. Shots to Devontae Parker one-on-one. If he has one-on-one, he's going to try to hit him on a deep ball. And honestly, I thought Devontae Parker couldn't do it anymore. He's actually been doing it pretty consistently because Zappi keeps saying every week, like, I like my guys better than your guys. I don't know where the hell he got that from, but it's actually been working. Tight ends in the red zone. Like Hunter Henry, I think, had a touchdown in like 3 straight games or something like that. And then Mike Gesicki, I predicted he was going to have one because Hunter Henry was out. Lo and behold, he has a touchdown. And then Zeke Elliott on little pick plays in the red zone. Those are like the bread and butter. That's where a lot of their, scores and big plays have come from. It's shots to Devontae Parker. There's some stuff underneath the Pop Douglas, a little bit of crossing routes, and then it's going to be the red zone tight ends and the running backs. That's what you got to watch out for.
And we'll see what it brings. Again, they had the advantage in week 7. I know this is both teams are different teams at this point right now, but the advantage still looms for the Bills like it did in week 7. And we'll see what happens, what it brings. Mr. Taylor Kyles, we went extremely long here. I didn't even really realize the time. It's late. You got to go take care of your cat. I'm sure she's grilling the hell out of you, like off screen. Like, why are you still doing this? But
oh God, she is.
Oh, that's funny. Get her, grab her, bring her on the camera. No. You're, like I said in the intro, bringing you on, like, you are one of my favorite people that I've ever had on the show. It's part of the reason I continue to bring it back. And I just enjoy, how you see the game and your knowledge of it, and then who you are as a person. We DM, but we also have each other's phone numbers and we text and do all that good stuff. You are tremendous. The floor is yours before you dip. Tell everybody who you are, what you do, where they can find your work, anything and everything. The floor is yours to wax poetically.
Appreciate you, buddy. Football wise, human being wise, you're one of the best. Thank you for having me on, as always. You're going to be on my show on Patriots CLNS YouTube channel. We're going to do Film with Friends on Thursday. Should be at 7 o'clock, so tune in for that. And then, you can find me at tkyles39 right there. That's where I am on Twitter. And then clnsmedia.com is where you can find my written work. If you're curious about what the hell the Patriots are doing with the rest of the season, I just did an article talking about Belichick's future, whether Bailey Zappi might be the answer at quarterback. It's a little more interesting of a conversation than you might think. And then I'm sure you don't care about the Patriots draft stuff, but if you are, there's a little segment on that.
Oh, no. But everybody should, because if you're a Bills fan, you should not want the Patriots to get better. Therefore, you should try and figure out what they're going to do and hope that it does not come to fruition. Continue. His thing died. I knew it. I was trying to get him out before he lost connection and died. But that is Mr. Taylor Kyles. Appreciate the hell out of him, as always, for joining me here on the show. As Nicholas said in the comments there, pro Ant dude crush. Where is it? Yeah, I would say, but as Spin says, Ant has a lot of dude crushes. Yeah, I've got a lot of dudes who I brought on the show who I think it's also, it kind of makes sense. Like the people I bring on the show, like I'm genuine fans of their work. Like I don't bring anybody on the show just to kind of like, be a warm body or fill a spot. Like if I don't think there's someone that can bring genuine value to the show, I'm not going to bring them on the show. Like the reason I bring them on is because I value their content. I would never bring somebody on just to be like a warm body. If I'm not valuing their work, like I'm not going to bring them on just to spew stuff to you guys. So the people who I bring on, I'm genuine fans of. I legitimately follow them, for their content and for what they do. And Taylor is absolutely one of those dudes. And I think I was also too, like what I mentioned about Taylor, like, the way he breaks down the game, he's a big all 22 dude. He's a tape and film kind of guy. And I think that's why I gravitate towards his work. Like Taylor is one of those follows where, he's doing a lot of Patriot stuff, but the things he's talking about are scheme and structure. So yes, it's through a Patriots lens, but you're still getting to learn certain coverages and certain aspects and certain pieces and certain rush calls and certain fronts and all that kind of stuff. So he's a follow again that gives you insight into the Patriots, which I think everybody should do, because if you are a Bills fan, you need to stay up on every other team. Oh, let's bring him up. Taylor, can you see? Can you hear? Oh, I think we can't hear you. Can't hear you. Uh-oh. I was going to bring you back to say bye. I was cool letting you ride off into the sunset. I can hear you. Yeah. Do you want to finish saying your
Okay,
goodbyes?
yeah, I didn't want to leave like that. My
No, you're
bad.
good.
I was trying to be sneaky with my dying battery,
No, you're
but
good.
here I am. But yeah, no, thank you all. You all, I love this community so much. You guys are awesome. But yeah, I don't know where I even finished off, but at tkyles39 on Twitter, clnsmedia.com. I'm going to have, like I said, the article, and then I'm going to have a Bills Patriots preview with 3 key matchups, and then Patriots CLNS, where I will have film with friends with Anthony later this week.
I appreciate you coming back from the dead to say your goodbyes. I appreciate you. Go,
Thank you for having me.
go charge the battery, get some sleep, whatever you got to do. I'll text you after this. I appreciate the hell out of you, and yeah, Godspeed.
Likewise, buddy. Thank you. Night, everybody.
Yeah, but he's truly I love because even that, just the kindness and the genuineness to recharge and reconnect to stuff to come back and say goodbye. Yeah, dude is good stuff. Oh, that's funny. I like this from Spin. Does that mean we get to start the show all over? I'm fine with that. I don't think I have another hour and a half in me. I'm still very much I'm reeling from Christmas. I have a lot of family and friends, as does the wife, and so we call it 7 Christmases because we have so many Christmases with different friends and family and groupings. I'm reeling. Like I'm on the struggle bus right now with how sleepy and tired I am. So I don't have it in me to start it over, but I like the joke and I appreciate that spin. Yeah, Taylor's awesome. Again, check out his content. Everything he does. I always think it's important to get insight into your opponent so you know who and what they are. So you're prepped on a matchup. That way you don't come into a game thinking, wrong on either side. You don't get too high. You don't get too low. He's one of those dudes that provides objective analysis on the Patriots, but also he will help you learn football at the same time. It's very much a model that I gravitate towards. And that's the type of content, again, selfishly, like I try to provide that as well. Like everything I do is, majority of it is through a Buffalo Bills lens, except for draft prospect stuff. I just break down a lot of players individually from an evaluation standpoint, but I always try to, the content I provide is Bills stuff, but it's through an overall like football landscape so that, you're seeing stuff on the Bills, but you're also learning about coverages and rush techniques and what a good rush looks like and what a bad this looks like, what a good route is, what good technique is for this and so on and so forth. Scheme, individual structure, individual evaluation, all that stuff. And he's very much in that boat. Give him a follow. He's fantastic. Ralph says, do you take the trees with you on your travels? No, do not. The trees, they are cemented figuratively in this room. But that's funny. I like where your head's at. T Dobb says, and crunches the numbers like the guy in the Beautiful Mind movie. That's funny. I wish. His mind is absolutely tremendous. I use the numbers just to kind of put things in perspective. I'm very much like a film first kind of guy, both with this show and then obviously with the film room with Eric Turner on Wednesdays. I trust the tape and I trust the eyes more than I do the numbers, but the numbers are important in putting the holistic picture together. The numbers kind of put into perspective what you're seeing. And I think being able to quantify what you're seeing is important. Or you can work backwards and start with the numbers. And then when you're watching on tape, know kind of where you want to start and where you want to look for and what you want to do. So I think the numbers are always going to be super important, but I use them in the auxiliary or support piece to the film aspect, which guides me in almost anything and everything I do. But yeah, major thank you to Mr. Taylor Kyles. Any questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, anything you folks got for this game coming up against the Pats, coming out of the Chargers game, anything and everything that is on your mind, start to throw it up into the chat. I've started some things as Taylor and I were going on a while ago, but anything you guys got or, girls got, feel free to throw it up into the chat right now. I want to start to do some live chat pieces as we wind down here on the show. And as you folks potentially do or don't do that, I'm going to bring up the sponsor. I mentioned them earlier in the show, One Pie Pizza, the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. You can find the online menu in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on. I say they are the best pizza in Buffalo, and I don't say that because I've partnered with them. I've partnered with them because I truly think they are the best. Tremendous sweet sauce pie, great cup of char pepperoni, great cheese to sauce ratio. They do a breakfast pizza now. They make their own homemade blue cheese. One of the things I've talked about before, like when you get like veggies or extra toppings on the stuff, like they don't just like put like whole pieces of veggies or kind of like disproportionately put it on the pizza. They chop it all up individually and then sprinkle it on so it's all even. Like they're just a real quality like craftsman group working with pizza, and I love pizza. So go on, go in the episode show notes here, see their online menu, anything and everything they got. Go get yourself some One Pie Pizza. And like I always talk about too, they're really good for the community. They just finished their Toys for Tots drive a week before Christmas. They partner with the SPCA, the Alzheimer's Foundation. They partner with Roswell and trying to knock out cancer. They're good people making good food. go get yourself some one pie pizza. Again, find the online menu in the episode of show notes. Whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to the show on. I like this comment from Dobbs. It says, and has a suitcase tree when he travels. I like that. I wish I had that, like just a separate suitcase for the tree, or found like a compactable tree that I can like break down and like it just like fit in my fist, and I can put it in my bag and then like expand it and open it up and just put it on a desk wherever I go, or a hotel room or anything and everything like that. That's funny. I like that. Well done. I appreciate you, Richard. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been hey, Richard says it's a pop-up tree. Exactly. You're just like, it just unfolds and just expands like a tent for camping, but instead of a tent, it's a tree. I like that a lot. Steve saying the Bills are absolutely blessed that the Ravens have so much on the line when they play Miami this week. Huge for us late in the season. Yeah, I think that's a fair statement, and fair to have some eyes on that game, which I know everybody does. I really thought or think that Miami would lose one of these two games against Dallas. I see that comment, Richard, that you just put in there. That's very funny. Well done. I really thought Miami would lose to Dallas or Baltimore. I hate to use one example or one thing as, being, well, if they would have had this, it would have changed the complete complexion of the game, or Dallas would have won. Like Dallas fumbling on the goal line to start that game. Man, it's just annoying knowing they lost by 2, knowing they should have had at least 3 in that scenario. But again, it was so earlier in the game, and God knows what avenues or branches or offshoots would have happened after that point if Dallas scores there. But yeah, I really thought Miami would lose one of these 2 games against Dallas and Baltimore. They obviously won against Dallas, and they go up against Baltimore, who I've said it on this show for the past several years and other shows as well. I thought the Baltimore Ravens, even with, even when they had Greg Roman as their OC, I always thought the Ravens were one of the best teams in football these past couple of years. They just have not been healthy ever. And even this year, they've been banged up a whole bunch. The offensive line has been banged up. They've been banged up in the secondary. Like the receivers get banged up. It seems like they can just never stay healthy. And even last year, being down a bunch of dudes, including Lamar Jackson, they probably should have beaten the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati in that wild card round. Tyler Huntley gets stopped at the 1-yard line on a huge run. And then I think literally the next play later is that fumble, and Sam Hubbard takes it back for a touchdown. Like the Cincinnati Bengals team that went to the AFC Championship and could have went to the Super Bowl again, like a backup quarterback-led Ravens team with a ton of other injuries went into their house and should have won that game. Like this Ravens team is a quality unit. As Richard says right now in the comments, that D for the Ravens look pretty good. Yeah, they've got a unit led by Mike McDonald who coaches them in a way to be whatever they need to be in order to beat their opponent. And the reason they're able to do that defensively is because of the versatility they have on the back end. Like they are a group, actually not even on the back end, really overall, but they're a group defensively that has the versatility to kind of be whoever they need to be in order to beat you. Like they've got guys that can rush, and those same guys that can rush can also drop. They're stout enough against the run, but they're also athletic enough to drop into coverage. You've got guys like Kyle Hamilton who can play deep, who can play as an apex, who can play in the box. Marcus Williams is back there. Like Geno Stone is playing out of his mind and getting picks. Marlon Humphrey's a really good corner who can also apparently now flex back into the inside as like a nickel corner. Like you're getting tons of good play from Brandon Stevens. Geno Stone led the NFL in interceptions at one point, along with like Deron Bland. And then Roquan Smith is that star there, the straw that stirs the drink on the inside as the guy who gets everybody right. One of the best linebackers in football, but also allows Patrick Queen, the other starting linebacker, to just do what he does best, which is come forward and play like a heat-seeking missile as a blitzer or against the run. They're stout in the middle. They're a really good defensive unit overall, but then offensively too, yeah, like even though they've lost Mark Andrews and the receiving consistency hasn't been there, and they've lost running backs and their offensive line has been banged up, and they're learning under a first-year offensive coordinator. So everybody's playing in this system for the first time, and it's a drastically different system than it was under Greg Roman. This team continues to trudge along. And I think, looking past this game from Miami, I think Baltimore is the most complete team in the NFL. I think the Bills were in that conversation, or probably leading it before all the injuries happened defensively, even with, the quote unquote struggles earlier in the year offensively. But I think the Ravens are the most complete team in football. And I hope they play like it this Sunday against Miami. And like you said, Steve, there is a lot on the line for Baltimore. If they lose to Miami, they'll have the same record. and thus will be behind Miami from a head-to-head standpoint, and Miami would leapfrog them for the number one seed in the AFC, which means Miami would win the division, but would also still be playing hard against the Bills in Week 18, trying to wrap up that number one seed. So it's all hands on deck rooting for the Ravens, and I thought Miami would lose at least one of these games. I honestly thought they'd lose both. I thought they would lose to Dallas, and I thought they'd lose to Baltimore, but every Bills fan needs to be a Ravens fan this upcoming Sunday. Hopefully, Baltimore takes care of business. And I really think they can. Again, I think they're one of the best teams in football. And again, not just in the AFC, but in football in general. They're a quality unit. But Bills got to take care of business first against the Patriots. We'll see what happens. I like this from Aiden. AFC North should just be renamed the AFC defense at this point. I like that. That's fair. As Spin says, yeah, Waddle being out is a huge hit for Miami against Baltimore. Is Jalen Waddle officially out, or is it just looking like he's not going to play? I'm Googling it right now. If anybody knows the answer already, feel free. Okay, I would say, yeah, I think Mike McDaniel just said, yeah, high ankle injury. It's gonna be tricky to be optimistic about, or it's tricky, but he's optimistic about his prospect. It sounds like Waddle's not going to play. He's been banged up all year. Ankle stuff, a lot of lower body injury stuff for him, like ankle, foot, like knee kind of stuff. I know Hill has had his share as well, but Waddle's been banged up since literally week one, I think, all year, and just has not been right. But yeah, that would be a huge hit if he's unable to go. So much of what they do, we know at this point, the passing windows and the spacing and the leverage, and so much of that is created offensively because of the speed that Waddle has, Hill has. Devon Achane is still a huge threat. I should look up, or what's the number? I've tweeted it out before, but the numbers that Devon Achane is putting up as a running back, and that's even with time missed. Again, limits his opportunities, but also kind of gives him the opportunity to take advantage from sample size. Devon Achane, amongst 61 qualifying running backs, he's first in EPA per carry at 0.34. This was going into this past week. First in EPA per carry at 0.34. Kyren Williams of the Rams was second at 0.12. So the difference in EPA per carry between Achane and Kyren Williams is the same as the difference between Kyren Williams and CEH at 39. So we'll see if Miami just leans into the run a little bit more with Mostert and with Achane. But again, to the point, Baltimore plays really good run defense, and they're stout in the middle. Matabuke is having a really good year, and again, having Queen and what he's able to do coming forward, and the rest of that group up front, they're a real quality unit on that side of the ball. So, all hands on deck, rooting for the Baltimore Ravens, and obviously cheering on the Buffalo Bills in terms of how they stack up against New England Patriots. I'm going to throw up the Toodles, folks. Banner up here. Oh, before anybody starts to dip, if you are thinking about that, please, if you have not already, please, and thank you, drop a like on this video. It goes a sincerely long way towards helping myself and the entire team to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. So if you are watching this video live right now, before you leave, please, and thank you, drop a like. It goes a long way. If you are watching later and post live, that's cool too. Please drop a like on this video. Again, it goes a long way towards helping myself and the entire team. I want to thank everybody for tuning in live to this episode. Pretty good turnout and pretty good attendance day after Christmas. I didn't know where everybody's heads would be at, especially with a not deflating win against the Chargers, but one that I could see kind of being a little bit meh for a lot of people. And then you go into the holiday weekend, so I didn't know what the turnout would look like tonight, but I was pleasantly surprised. So thank you, folks, for tuning in. Everybody who rode with me live here on this episode, thank you very much for tuning in live. I greatly appreciate it. It's always awesome to see the view count go up there and the questions and thoughts and the back and forth with all you folks in the live chat. It's awesome. So everybody who tuned in live, thank you very much for that. Thank you very much to Mr. Taylor Kyles of Patriots, CLNS, for joining me. Again, one of my favorite dudes, guy who knows ball, breaks it down objectively, and just is an awesome follow. So go give him a follow at TKyles39 on the old Twitter. Thank you very much to him. If you are not watching live, like I mentioned earlier, that's cool. Thank you very much for your post-live view. If you are listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, thank you very much for your listen, your download, whatever have you. If you're listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, please rate and review and subscribe to Disguised Coverage. Please subscribe to Disguised Coverage on YouTube as well, and subscribe to the Cover One channel if you can as well. We have you covered every single day of the week with Bill's content, varying levels of depth, varying levels of entertainment pieces, whatever you're looking for, surface level, in-depth, serious, more entertaining, anything and everything we have you covered here on this brand. So check out the Cover One channel. I appreciate you folks very much for tuning in. Like I said in the intro, I hope everybody had a great holiday. I know it's awesome. It's an awesome time for some, but also not great time for some as well. So whether it's an awesome time or a not so great time, I hope it was as good as can be for you, over the weekend and the holiday time. Again, whether you tuned in live or watching later or listening later, thank you very much for your view, your listen, your download. I greatly appreciate it. It means more than you know. Thank you very much to Carl for the super chat. Again, please drop a like on this video here on YouTube. Likes are the lifeblood of these streams and impacting the algorithm. I greatly appreciate it if you could do so. Tell your family and friends and loved ones about how awesome this show is. If you thought this show was terrible, that's fine. Tell your enemies about the show and try and ruin their day with this show. Either way, I greatly appreciate you folks. I see some of the positive comments that have been coming through, including the one from Richard just now. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the kind comments from myself throughout the entirety of this episode, the kind comments towards Taylor as well. I thought that was pretty gracious from you folks, so thank you very much for that. I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. Oh, that's awesome, Carl. Thank you so much. Carl throwing up another super chat there saying, here's another super chat just to wish you happy holidays and a happy new year, Aunt. Thanks for all that you do for us. Your content is always great. That's super awesome. That's super great. I sincerely appreciate that. You kind of got me a little bit of lost for words there. So I appreciate the hell out of you for that. Thank you very much, Carl. One, just for being here pretty much every single week. Also tune in the film room as well. Like I'm pretty sure I appreciate your consistent, support and being here, but then the super chats as well. Like that's pretty awesome. Thank you so much for that. That made my night. Thank you very much, Carl. That's awesome. Hope you, Carl, and everybody, I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. If you are going to the Bills game this weekend, have a good time. Tailgate hard, be loud, be rowdy, make it difficult for Mr. Bailey Zappi and the Pats offense and the Pats defense to do anything. Do whatever you can to try and help the Bills and shout loud and do all that good stuff. Have a good time tailgating. If you tailgate, if you don't, whatever, that's cool too. Drive safe, travel safe, drink responsibly, have a good time at the game. If you are going, if not, you're staying at home. Cool. Enjoy the warm confines of your home. Either way, I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. I will see you next Tuesday for another episode of Disguise Coverage live, 9 p.m. Eastern. As always, join myself and Eric Turner live Wednesday, December 27th, 7 p.m. Eastern for the Cover One Film Room. We'll be diving into the Bills and Chargers game film, breaking down some schematic pieces, some structural pieces, some individual player pieces coming out of that Chargers game. Again, that film room episode live the film room is live every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, but that particular one will be Wednesday, December 27th, 7 p.m. Eastern. So if you're watching this on Tuesday or during the day, Wednesday, tune in live Wednesday, 27th, 7 p.m. Eastern for another episode of the Cover One Film Room. Until then, I'll see you all either tomorrow in the film room or next week, Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern for another episode of Disguise Coverage. Be well, take care of one another, Godspeed, and as always, go Bills.